Pray for me, my love. I will do my best to come back.
I have seen the money. My men would be on site by 11 p.m. Make sure you finish the job.
It is with the deepest regret that we confirm the reports. All soldiers deployed in the recent operation have been killed in action.
I was a devoted soldier, ready to fight for my nation, but I and my comrades were sold out by corrupt officials. Now, my quest is to avenge my fallen comrades.
Something was already wrong, long before anyone pulled the trigger. Follow for the full series. The news broke at exactly 7 p.m. Families gathered around their televisions. Neighbors called each other. Phones started ringing. Social media was flooded. Breaking news. Brave Nigerian soldiers have fallen in a deadly ambush at the northern border. They died as heroes defending the nation. Names began to roll out, one after the other. Mothers screamed. Wives collapsed. Children cried, not even understanding what was happening. And then one name was mentioned, Sergeant Daniel Cole. In a quiet living room in Lagos, a woman dropped the glass in her hand. It shattered across the floor. No, 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 she whispered, shaking her head. But far away, in a dark, silent forest, filled with the smell of gunpowder and death, Daniel Cole was still breathing. Dear viewer, what you are about to hear is not just a story of war. It is a story of betrayal, of silence, of a system that eats its own people, and of a man who refused to die quietly. Because sometimes the enemy is not who you think it is. Just a few days before that tragic announcement, Daniel was a happy man. He lived in a modest but peaceful home in Lagos with his wife, Grace, and their young son, Michael. Life was not perfect, but it was honest. Every morning, Grace would wake up before sunrise, kneel beside the bed, and pray, Lord, protect my husband wherever he goes. Fight battles he cannot see. Daniel used to tease her. Madam Pastor, he would say, smiling as he tied his boots. If prayer could stop bullets, we wouldn't need soldiers. Grace would look at him seriously. Don't joke with what you don't understand. Daniel would laugh it off, kiss her forehead, and head out. But one evening, everything began to change. He returned home earlier than usual, his face tense. Grace noticed immediately. What happened? Daniel sat down heavily. We've been deployed. Her heart dropped. Deployed? Where? Northern border, high-risk zone. They said it's a final operation, one decisive strike to end everything. Grace shook her head slowly. Nothing like that is ever simple. Daniel sighed. It's my duty. That night, sleep did not come easily. Then suddenly, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. He frowned and opened it. Don't trust this mission. You are being sent to die. He sat up immediately. His heart began to race. He read it again and again. Before he could respond, the message disappeared completely, like it was never there. And that was the moment Daniel should have walked away, because the next day he boarded that plane, not knowing he was already listed among the dead.
You can survive a war against an enemy, but no one survives a war against their own commanders. Follow for the full series. The next morning, Daniel mentioned the mysterious message to his closest friend in the unit, Victor. Victor laughed. Guy, you don't dey watch too many movies. Who could they send you that kind of message? Daniel tried to laugh too. Yeah, maybe you're right. But deep down, something didn't sit well. 2 days later, they were on a military transport plane heading to the operation zone. The mood inside was mixed. Some soldiers were joking, some were silent, some were praying quietly under their breath. Victor nudged Daniel. After this mission, we go flex well. I don't already plan them. Daniel smiled faintly. We go see. As the plane landed and they stepped into the dry, tense atmosphere of the conflict zone, their commanding officer gathered them. This is a critical mission, he said firmly. We strike, we eliminate, we end this insurgency once and for all. No mistakes. Everyone nodded, but Daniel noticed something. The officer avoided eye contact. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. That was the first sign. The second sign came later that night. Daniel was reviewing the operation map when he noticed something strange. Their coordinates, they were too exposed, too predictable, almost like someone wanted them to be found. He frowned and approached Victor. Does this make sense to you? Victor glanced at it. It's risky, but that's war. Daniel shook his head slowly. No, this is something else. Victor sighed. Daniel, Don't overthink it. Just do your job. But Daniel couldn't shake the feeling. That night, as others slept, he stepped outside and called Grace. She picked immediately. Daniel, I'm fine, he said quickly. Just wanted to hear your voice. Grace was silent for a moment. Then she said softly, something is wrong, isn't it? Daniel hesitated. Then finally, I don't know, but something doesn't feel right. Grace closed her eyes and whispered, I knew it. Listen to me, she said firmly. Whatever happens, don't ignore your instinct and pray. Daniel leaned against the wall, staring into the dark. For the first time in his life, he was afraid. The next day, the mission began, and as they stepped into the target zone, the air went deathly silent because the trap was already set.
There is a specific kind of silence that happens right before a man realizes he's already dead. Follow for the full series. The mission began. They moved in formation, advancing toward the target location. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. No movement, no sound. Even the wind felt heavy. Victor whispered, "This place dey too quiet." Daniel nodded slowly. "Stay sharp." And then it happened. Gunshots exploded from every direction. Bullets rained down like fire. Men dropped instantly. "Ambush!" someone screamed. Daniel dove behind cover, his heart pounding wildly. "This doesn't make sense," he shouted. "They knew we were coming." Victor fired back, panic in his voice. "Call for backup." Daniel grabbed the radio. "This is Alpha Team. We are under heavy fire. Request immediate support." Static. He tried again. "Alpha Team requesting backup. We are surrounded." Nothing. No response. His blood ran cold. Victor looked at him. "What did they say?" Daniel shook his head slowly. "They are not coming." And in that moment, as bullets tore through the air and his fellow soldiers fell one by one, the message flashed back into his mind. You are being sent to die. This was not a mission. This was a setup. And as Daniel watched Victor get hit and collapse beside him, blood spreading across his chest, something inside him broke. Not fear, not panic, something deeper, something darker. Because in that moment, he realized the truth. The people he was fighting for had already abandoned him, and this was only the beginning. The gunfire did not stop. It only grew louder, closer, more deadly. Daniel could hear his own heartbeat pounding inside his ears as bullets tore through the dry grass around him. Men were screaming, some calling for their mothers, some calling on God, some saying nothing at all as their bodies dropped lifeless to the ground. "Victor! Victor!" Daniel shouted, dragging his friend behind a broken piece of concrete. Victor's chest was soaked in blood. His breathing was rough, uneven. "Guy, this thing no be normal," Victor whispered, struggling to speak. Daniel pressed his hand against the wound, his voice shaking. "You go survive. Just hold on." Victor grabbed his wrist tightly. "Listen to me. If I no make 'em." "Shut up!" Daniel snapped. "You will make it." But Victor's grip tightened. "We were sold," he said weakly. "I heard something before we left. Officers talking. This mission na set up." Daniel froze as the realization hit. His own commanders hadn't just made a mistake. They had signed his death warrant for a price.
Imagine looking into the eyes of your enemy and realizing he's carrying the exact same rifle your government gave you. Follow for the full series. Daniel froze. "What are you saying?" Victor coughed, blood spilling from his lips. They knew we go die here." Daniel's eyes widened in shock. Before he could respond, a loud explosion shook the ground. Dust filled the air. More soldiers fell. "Victor, stay with me," Daniel shouted. But Victor's hand slowly loosened. His eyes went still, and just like that, he was gone. For a brief second, everything around Daniel went silent. Not because the gunfire stopped, but because something inside him shut down. His best friend, gone, just like that. No goodbye, no meaning, just gone. Then anger rushed in, hot, sharp, dangerous. Daniel picked up his rifle, his movements now different. No more confusion, no more hesitation, only survival. He moved quickly, low to the ground, returning fire with precision. One enemy dropped, then another, but it felt useless. There were too many of them, and they were too prepared. They knew our exact position, Daniel muttered under his breath. This was not luck. This was not strategy. This was information. Suddenly, someone grabbed him from behind. Daniel reacted instantly, twisting and pinning the man down, his rifle aimed at his head. "Don't move," Daniel backed. The man raised his hand slowly. He was one of the enemy fighters, young, calm, not even panicking. Daniel's finger tightened on the trigger. "Why are you people here? Who sent you?" The man looked straight into his eyes and said something that froze his blood. "You still don't know?" Daniel frowned. "Know what?" The man gave a small, almost pitying smile. "You people are not fighting a war. You are fighting a contract." Daniel's grip faltered slightly. "What nonsense are you saying?" The man continued calmly, as if they were in the middle of a battlefield. "Your commander sold your movement, your location, everything. We were waiting for you." Daniel shook his head. "That's a lie." The man chuckled softly. "Check your weapons. Check ours. Same supplier, same markings, same source." Daniel hesitated, just for a second. Then he glanced at the rifle beside the man. His breath caught. It was true. The same serial markings, the same build. Daniel stared at the matching serial numbers on the enemy's rifle, realizing he wasn't a soldier anymore. He was just a piece of inventory, sold to the highest bidder.
The most dangerous man in the world is the one who has already been officially declared dead. Follow for the full series. His heart began to pound again, but this time not from fear, from realization. This is impossible, he whispered. The man leaned closer, his voice low. "You were delivered to us like goods." Daniel stepped back slightly, his mind racing. Before he could process it further, another explosion went off nearby. The distraction was enough. The man pushed him away and ran. Daniel raised his gun, but he didn't shoot. He just stood there, frozen. Everything he believed in, everything he trusted, was starting to crumble. Suddenly, heavy footsteps approached. Daniel turned quickly, aiming his rifle, but then he froze. Wait, it's me," a familiar voice shouted. Daniel squinted through the dust. "Damidi? Sadiq." Sadiq stumbled forward, breathing heavily, his uniform torn, his face covered in dirt. "You are alive," Daniel said, shocked. Sadiq nodded quickly. "I've been hiding since the first explosion. This thing no be normal, Daniel. Something is very wrong." Daniel stared at him. "Victor is gone." Sadiq's face fell. "God." For a moment, both men stood there, the weight of everything pressing down on them. Then Sadiq spoke again, his voice urgent. "We need to leave, now." Daniel frowned. "Leave? We're soldiers, we have to hold position." Sadiq grabbed him by the vest. "Hold what position? Look around you." Daniel looked. Bodies everywhere. Silence from their command line. No backup, no rescue, nothing. Sadiq's voice dropped. "They are not coming for us." Daniel swallowed hard. "I know," he said quietly. Sadiq leaned closer. "Then we have to save ourselves." Daniel hesitated. Everything in him had been trained to obey, to fight, to never retreat. But this was not war. This was execution. Slowly, he nodded. "Okay." The two men began to move carefully, using what little cover they could find, avoiding direct confrontation. The gunfire slowly faded behind them as they pushed deeper into the rough terrain. Hours passed. The sun began to set. They finally reached a hidden spot far from the chaos. Both men collapsed to the ground, exhausted. For a while, no one spoke. Then Daniel finally broke the silence. "If what that man said is true," he began slowly, "then this whole thing is bigger than us," Sadiq finished. Daniel nodded. Sadiq looked at Daniel with hollow eyes and asked the one question a soldier never wants to hear. "If they sold our lives once, what's stopping them from hunting us down right now?"
There are two ways to die. One is by a bullet, and the other is by having your existence deleted from a computer screen. Follow for the full series. Sadiq looked at him seriously. "So what do we do now?" Daniel stared into the distance. His mind replayed everything. The strange message, the faulty coordinates, the silence from command, Victor's last words. "We were sold." Daniel clenched his fists. "We don't run," he said finally. Sadiq frowned. "What do you mean?" Daniel turned to him, his eyes now different, colder, sharper. "We find proof." Sadiq shook his head immediately. "Proof? For who? You think anybody will use him?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. Then he said quietly, "They will have to." Sadiq laughed bitterly. "You still believe that? After everything?" Daniel held his gaze. "If we stay silent, then Victor died for nothing." That hit hard. Sadiq looked away, conflicted. After a long pause, he sighed. "You are a stubborn man, Daniel." Daniel gave a faint, tired smile. "You already know." Sadiq nodded slowly. "Okay, we do it your way." The night grew darker, the air colder,
and somewhere far away, the sound of helicopters echoed faintly, but they were not rescue helicopters. They were something else, something coming to make sure no one survived to tell the story. And as Daniel sat there, staring into the darkness, one thought kept repeating in his mind. If his own country could do this to him, then who could he trust? The night was too quiet, not the kind of peaceful quiet, but the kind that makes your chest tight, the kind that feels like something is watching you, waiting. Daniel did not sleep. Sadiq did not sleep. They sat back to back, rifles in hand, eyes scanning the darkness, every small sound making their fingers tighten on the trigger. Then the sound came. Distant at first, then clearer. Helicopters. Daniel looked up slowly, his jaw tightening. You hear that? Sadiq nodded. That's not rescue. The sound grew louder, circling, searching. Sadiq's voice dropped. They are coming to clean up. Daniel stood up slowly, his body tense. Then we move now. They didn't wait. They grabbed their gear and slipped into the darkness, moving through bushes, rocks, dry land, anywhere that could hide them. Behind them, the helicopters hovered over the battlefield they had just escaped. Daniel looked back just in time to see the first muzzle flash from the helicopter, realizing the cleanup crew wasn't there for the enemy. They were there for the witnesses.
It is a terrifying thing to realize that your life has a price tag and your country has already cashed the check. Follow for the full series, and then gunfire again. Short bursts, precise, execution style. Daniel didn't need to see it to understand. Anyone still breathing back there was being finished off. He clenched his teeth. This country, he whispered under his breath. But he didn't finish the sentence, because now it was no longer about anger. It was about survival. They moved for hours, no direction, just a way. Until finally, as dawn began to break, they reached an abandoned settlement. Broken huts, empty wells, silence everywhere. They entered one of the houses carefully. Sadiq dropped his bag and leaned against the wall. We can't keep running like this. Daniel nodded. We won't. He reached into his vest and pulled out a small device. Sadiq frowned. What is that? Daniel looked at it, his face serious. Before the mission, I copied some files from command. I didn't even know why I did it. Sadiq stepped closer. What kind of files? Daniel swallowed. Movement logs, communication records, authorization codes. Sadiq's eyes widened. Daniel, do you know what this means? Daniel nodded slowly. Proof. For the first time since the ambush, something like hope flickered, but it was small, fragile, and dangerous. Because in a system like this, truth is not protection. Truth is a threat. 2 days later, after moving carefully and avoiding every major road, they finally reached the outskirts of a town. From there, they managed to secure transport, blending in, keeping their heads down. Daniel wore a cap low over his face. Sadiq barely spoke. Every siren made their hearts race. Every checkpoint felt like the end. But somehow, they made it back to Lagos, home. Or what used to be home. That night, Daniel stood outside his house, staring at the door. His hands trembled slightly. Sadiq looked at him. You sure about this? Daniel nodded. I have to see them. He knocked. A few seconds later, the door opened. Grace stood there. For a moment, she didn't move. She just stared, like she was looking at a ghost. Daniel, she whispered. His eyes filled with emotion. It's me. She rushed forward and hugged him tightly, breaking down in tears. As Daniel stepped across the threshold of his home, he looked past his weeping wife and saw a stack of luxury items that shouldn't be there, the physical evidence that his death had already been bought and paid for. There is no greater betrayal than coming home to find that your family has been comforted with the very money used to sell your life. Follow for the full series. You are alive. You are alive. For that moment, everything else disappeared. The war, the betrayal, the fear. It was just him and home. But then he noticed something. The house looked different. New furniture, new electronics, a kind of comfort that wasn't there before. Daniel pulled back slightly. Grace, what is all this? Her expression changed. Fear replaced joy. She looked away. Daniel, come inside first. They sat down. Sadiq stood quietly by the door. Grace's hands were shaking. They came after the news. She began slowly. Military officials, government people. Daniel's face hardened. What did they want? She swallowed. They said you died a hero and they gave us compensation. Daniel stared at her. How much? She hesitated, then said it, the number. Daniel's chest tightened. That was not compensation. That was payment. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Then Daniel asked quietly, and what did they tell you? Grace's eyes filled with tears again. They said we should accept it and move on. Daniel's voice dropped. And if you didn't, she looked at him. They said it would be dangerous to ask questions. Sadiq let out a bitter laugh. Of course. Daniel leaned back, running his hands over his face. So it was true. Everything. They were not just abandoned, they were erased. Grace reached for his hand. Daniel, please, let it go. You are alive. That's enough. He looked at her, then at his son, sleeping peacefully in the next room. For a moment, he considered it, walking away, living quietly, forgetting everything. But then, Victor's face flashed in his mind. The soldiers who screamed for help, the bodies left behind, the helicopters finishing the job. Daniel slowly pulled his hand away. I can't, he said. Grace shook her head, crying. They will kill you, Daniel nodded. I know. Sadiq stepped forward. Then what's the plan? Daniel stood up, his expression now completely different. Calm, focused, dangerous. We expose them. Sadiq laughed again. Expose who? This thing is too big. Daniel held up the device. We have names, accounts, transactions. Sadiq's smile faded. Daniel continued. We take it to the media. Sadiq shook his head. Media is controlled. Then we find the ones that are not. Days passed. They moved carefully, contacted people, journalists, activists, anyone who might listen. But one by one, doors closed. Phones stopped ringing. Meetings were cancelled. One journalist finally told them the truth. You people are already marked, he said quietly. Nobody wants to touch this. Daniel looked at the device, then at the window, and realized the silence from the media was not just fear, it was the countdown to the moment the doors would be kicked in.
When the law fails and the truth is buried, the only thing left to do is become the monster they claim you already are. Follow for the full series. Daniel felt the frustration rising. So that's it? He asked. Everyone just keeps quiet? The man looked at him sadly. This country is bigger than truth. That night, Daniel sat alone, staring at the device in his hand. All that evidence, all that risk, for nothing. Sadiq sat beside him. We tried. Daniel didn't respond. Minutes passed. Then suddenly, his phone buzzed. A message. Unknown number. We know you're alive. Another message followed immediately. Stop now or your family will pay. Daniel's grip tightened. Sadiq saw his expression. What is it? Daniel showed him. Sadiq cursed under his breath. It has started. Daniel stood up slowly, walked to the window, looked outside. A black SUV was parked across the street. Engine running, watching, waiting. In that moment, everything became clear. This was not a battle he could win with evidence. Not a fight for courts. Not a fight for media. This was something else. Something darker. Something final. Daniel turned back to Sadiq. They won't stop, he said. Sadiq nodded. I know. Daniel's voice was calm. Too calm. Then we don't fight them like victims. Sadiq frowned. What do you mean? Daniel walked to the table, picked up his weapon, and began to load it slowly. Click, each sound echoing in the room. We fight them like they fight us. Sadiq's eyes widened slightly. Daniel looked at him. No fear, no hesitation, just purpose. They erased us, he said quietly. Now we become invisible. He turned toward the door. The same man who left for war was gone. What remained was something else. Something the system had created by mistake. As he stepped into the night, his voice was low but heavy with meaning. Now I am set to revenge for all my fallen comrades. The gunfire from the ambush still echoed in his mind, but now it was a rhythm. He wasn't looking for a journalist anymore. He wasn't looking for a lawyer. He was looking for the men who signed the papers, the men who counted the money, the men who thought a soldier's life was just a line item in a budget. In the shadows of Lagos, Sergeant Daniel Cole vanished. To the world, he was a hero who died at the border. But to the men in the black SUV, he was about to become the ghost that haunts their every waking hour. The mission wasn't over. It was just moving into the shadows. As Daniel stepped into the darkness, the SUV door opened, but he didn't run. He smiled because he knew that in a city of millions, nobody is more dangerous than a dead man with nothing left to lose.
You can watch the full video on our YouTube channel. The link is in our bio. Please support us.